Faith Forged in Fire, where we dive headfirst into the unique challenges and triumphs that comes with being a firefighter, all while exploring what it means to live out a biblical worldview. Join us as we find hope, perseverance, and faith in the midst of the heat and chaos. Welcome to the podcast. What's up, Bears? It's all you.
What's up, Bears? Welcome back to the Faith Forged in Fire podcast. We've had a little bit of a break, but welcome to the new year. We hope everybody out there had a great Christmas and a great New Year's. As you see, I am wearing proudly my Bears gear today because last Sunday
you get one win. In
I
the
get
NFL
one win, and it's a big deal. I wear my stuff. Not only that, but I just pulled this up because you got to hear this. You know, Bears.
That.
PJ, are you going to tell him his hat's on backwards and his patch is at the back?
I muted that. And we say, here's Lions fans acting like we've been here before.
I know. Listen, you have to have some, come on, help me out.
Number
here.
one seed for the first time since 1975 when they started seeding. Yeah.
No, I'm happy for the Lions. That's like, hey, I know hopefully one day I'll see that again. Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, we're happy for the Bears. It's a losing season. So
always happy for that.
Always happy for that.
You know, you can always look at good draft picks.
It could be, but it could be worse. The Packers could have won.
That's true.
So there we go. Yep. There we go. I mean,
no, they couldn't even win to help the Lions. The one
that's
time
true.
I've
the
ever
one
rooted
time
for the
I know.
Packers.
Yeah. Well, there's
This
one
is
more
not a
time
sports show.
they play Philly, right?
This is not
on Saturday.
That's
Sunday.
see, they do play Philly.
They do.
See,
Yeah,
they
we
do
were
play
talking
Philly.
about that.
Yeah.
All right, let's not. We need Smokey back already. Derailed. And,
What are we doing?
Yeah.
Hey, guys,
Wait, guys, where are we?
Remember, we put in our guest by the hour.
Yeah.
I'm getting paid.
Yeah.
We pay
My
in
story
coffee
just
if
got
you can.
longer.
Yeah, we pay in coffee if you know how to open the package.
Yeah, that's the first thing. You have to demonstrate actual skills.
Steve still
opening
hasn't
the package.
demonstrated it.
I'm still working on it. I failed a couple times, and so I have to do round 3 here. So I cannot drink any more coffee until I know how to open the package correctly. But well, so welcome back. Like we said, we're going to start up the year.
Back to my original thought.
My original thought about 5 minutes ago. No, we want to. We're starting off the show this year with an incredible guest, a wonderful guest here. And we're so thankful to have him here. But Harold Veldman is joining us today. Harold is a local pastor, and he is also the chaplain of Allendale Fire Department here in Allendale, Michigan. And kind of how this meeting set up was in my previous job, I used to, be a sales rep, and I used to go to local fire departments, and Allendale happened to be one of my customers. And the chief there at Allendale Fire was kind enough to say, "Hey, I talked to my chaplain about your podcast, and he saw it and just loved it and wants to get together and kind of talk to you." So we got a chance to.
Must have been the Behind Your Backs podcast.
Yeah, that was
this one.
I know. I'm just looking at Steve, looking at Rich, and I'm like, oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
I'm like one of the viewers today. I'm like, oh, no kidding.
Really? Yeah. So someone likes it. But no, we got a chance.
It's been a while.
Mikey likes the podcast.
It's been a while since we've gotten together. So,
we're getting it out. We haven't seen each other in a while, but, no, so I got a chance I talked to Harold on the phone, and we got a chance to get together for some lunch on a day. And, it was so cool because, I really got a chance to sit down and get to know him. And one of the things that Harold talked about was just about mental health in the fire services. We've talked before, that's such a big deal in the fire services, the mental health of the members and making sure that, that they stay healthy, through all the calls and into their personal lives. And Harold had an incredible take from his personal life, but also in his family history of some stuff. And as soon as I heard it, I thought, this is a great topic, and this is a great way to look at it. So Harold, I'd love for you to take the podium here and just kind of talk about what we talked about at lunch, but also just how you're using some of what you know to help out the members of Allendale Fire and what they're going through.
Sure. Let me just do a couple of kind of introductory, so because people don't know who I am. I have been in ministry here in Allendale we've been here almost 20 years. Been in ministry for 35 this year. I'll be the chaplain. This is my 10th year as the chaplain of the fire department. I wish I'd started that sooner. Man, if I'd known better, I would have done that way back early in my career. But, hindsight's easy.
Hold on. I want to stop you. Hold on. I want to stop you there, Harold, if we can, because
Yep.
I'm a pastor who's a firefighter, but I'm also a chaplain, and I have been been in the fire service for 15 years, I think now.
Okay.
So why? Because here's the thing, and we don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but I just think more pastors need to be involved in their community. And so I would like to hear your take on why you should have done it earlier.
I'll be honest and really blunt with you guys. My denomination is Christian Reformed, which doesn't have the greatest reputation in West Michigan among non-church people. So to get invited into people's homes to walk with them on their worst day ever, it's a privilege beyond anything that I see in normal ministry. So I've taken a little different route on the chaplain route because I know a number of the chaplains in the area are also firefighters, and I go through training with our guys, but I can't touch a tool when we're on scene.
Right.
I am a dedicated chaplain, so they can't pull me aside and say, "Hey, we need help with this extrication." It's like, yeah, pull somebody else. I'm dealing with your patient. You're going to deal with the tools.
Right.
So, I just think it's so untapped, and people are in their worst, most chaotic moment, and we as chaplains are there to simply provide a moment of calm and help families face this moment. Let me give you a little story on this one. Maybe 2 months into being a chaplain, we had a T-bone accident at 104th and Lake Michigan Drive. And there were 4 teenagers in the car, and all of them with various injuries. And I'm just sitting there scanning the crowd for parents, because I know we're going to get 4 sets of parents show up. And when I noticed, you can just tell body language. I caught these parents, and I just kind of debriefed them as to what was going on. And my little speech to them was, listen, your daughter or son is getting great care right now. Do you want to help their care? And of course, their answer to that is yes. And it's like, okay, for the next 10 minutes, when you go up there, fake your calmness to your child so that you don't walk up there and go, I said, your child is going to get anxious when you do that, and she or he is not going to get the help they need. So have your moment 20 minutes from now. But in the meantime, while they're working, just be the calmest, smiling, fake it. And I said, can you fake it for 10 minutes? And they go, yeah, we think we can do that. I said, good. They're right over there. And that moment helped the responders to be able to provide better care without parents being in the way.
Mm-hmm. Good.
That's a great way to use the parents as well.
Yeah.
Get them involved. And I remember years and years ago of going through firefighter 1 and 2 and EMS Academy and all of that, and being taught use the parents whenever you can. And, they bring a sense of grounding for the kids or anybody else that's involved.
But a calm patient is a good patient. We had a
Yes.
rollover that PJ stopped at last week. I think it was last
Friday
week. I don't remember
morning,
what it was. And the girl says, I got a headache. Do I have a cut on my head? And I look at it and go like, yeah, you got a little scratch. Well, come to find out it was 50 staples and 20 stitches to fix the scratch.
Oh, man.
Now, had I told her how
she
bad
wouldn't have
that
been
cut
calm anymore.
was, it would have been a completely different patient.
Yep.
Well, good. I just was curious. That's great, Harold. Just your take on that and your opportunity to get into people's homes. And that's exactly, I just feel that we need to be, as pastors, taking value into our community. And that's great. So you can keep going. Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay.
So like I said, we met on an afternoon, had lunch. So in our conversation, go ahead, Harold, with some of the things we talked about and you brought to my attention, which was really, really good.
Yeah. And a little bit about my backstory is that I come from a family that's got both law enforcement and fire members in it. And my grandfather in the Netherlands was a member of Yeah, the Dutch call it the Marechaussee. It's a combination of Border Patrol and Royal Guard and partner with the police. And, they do a number of things. So it's kind of in the family blood. But my real interest in especially mental and emotional health really got piqued in discovering my dad's story. I'll jump to the finish of this and then come back and flesh it out a little bit. But we discovered that my dad was likely an undiagnosed victim of PTSD due to some horrific events that he went through in the war. And his response to that was bury it, over spiritualize it. And as a result, I think I've traced that he had 5 nervous breakdowns, and there's probably more. The short story on my dad was that he was in the Dutch resistance during the war, got captured, was held in a Dutch jail and interrogated for 6 weeks. So, they beat the snot out of him. And on December 11 of 1944, 9 guys broke into that jail and without firing a shot, rescued 30 prisoners and were on the road, like I say, in about 15, 20 minutes. And my dad was one of those rescued. So I owe my life to those guys, but it broke my dad. And we knew there was something different about him, but we never had language for it. And I think that the stresses that he went through ultimately killed him.
Wow.
So I've been, by the way, backstory again, I've been in the jail in the Netherlands where he was held. I've actually held the key that they used to break into the jail.
Wow.
It's really cool.
Wow.
That is cool. Yeah. Oh.
Yeah.
So this is very personal to you. Yeah. Yeah.
And because of the personal side of it, I'm looking at guys that face trauma and go, listen, I know what it's like to grow up in a home where stuff isn't talked about, stuff isn't dealt with, and I know what happens. I don't want that to happen to you or to your family.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the difference between war and the fire service and law enforcement is that in a war, there's a finite time. The war was 5 years. It was over. You talk about careers here that sometimes span 40 plus years. And the number of times our guys get exposed to trauma are beyond counting.
Right. That was one of the things, I think we've talked about it on this podcast a long, long time ago. It might have even been when it was just you and I, Rich. I watched a video of a fella who had been Iraq, Afghanistan, and he's now a firefighter. And he was asked about that. And he said, by all means, he said, a lot of people think that soldiers face the greatest trauma, have the greatest PTSD from that trauma. But he said the difference is we came home from that and it was over. Yes, we still have to deal with it, but we're not faced with new every day. And he said, when you're a first responder, it never ends.
And like you said, you knew a lot of the people that you were dealing with.
Well, that's it.
Their friends, neighbors, friends of friends, those kind of things. So it's a lot more personal.
Yeah.
Howard, so how do you take the, Harold, how do you take the what you learned from growing up with your dad? How do you implement that at Allendale Fire when you're dealing with the guys there in a situation where someone's really struggling? How do you take those experiences and relate those to help that member out?
Yeah. I think that there's an illustrative story of when that doesn't happen. Early on in my chaplaincy, I went to pick something up at a local store, and the guy saw my pager on my belt, and he just said, "What department?" And I said, "I'm with Allendale." And he goes, "How long you been?" I said, "Well, I'm the new chaplain." And his body language was like this. "Oh, so you're one of the guys that want us to talk." And I said, "Okay." I said, "So why is that a problem?" He said, "Well, there's a call that we went on a couple of years ago. There was a child fatality involved." He says, "And I can't unlive that call, and I don't want to talk about it." And so we just kind of small talked about that a little bit. And I thought, you know what? I got nothing to lose. I'm never going to see this guy again. And I just kind of gave him my snarky side look, and I said, "Man, I bet you're a blast to be around at home, aren't you?" And this guy balled his fists, and I thought he was going to deck me. And it wouldn't have surprised me, and I wouldn't have faulted him. But then his shoulders slumped, and he goes, "No, I'm a bit of an ass at home." And so I said, "Listen," I said, "you're reliving this trauma every day at work and at home. And how am I the bad guy in this again?"
Right.
And so what I've learned about trauma, the little that I know, is that when guys or girls face a situation that is especially hard, the first line of defense is the duty team that they were on that call with. And so here's an example of this. The guys that go to Iraq who, well, let's even broaden it. The difference between World War II and Vietnam and the sandbox is that when World War II was over, all of these guys got onto a boat, and they were on that boat for a month.
Mm-hmm.
They had constant debriefing with each other, and they talked out the things that they experienced. Vietnam and after, when your tour was done or when you were injured, you were hopped on a plane, and 10 hours later, you're in the States, and you've got no ability to debrief that whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why the incidents for Vietnam vets and for Desert Storm and other vets has been higher if they're not able to debrief with the people that went through that with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we talked about we talked earlier on, not you and I, but we had a show earlier on where we had the chaplain of Layton Township Fire on here, and we were kind of talking about how sometimes it's so hard to get guys to open up. And like you're saying, to debrief, because guys just don't want to talk about it. They just there's a pride issue there. It's like, it's not the cool manly thing to do is talk about what's bothering you. And yet, we don't realize it when those guys are hiding all of that in. It's just doing nothing but damage to them because they're trying to file that away somewhere internally. Mm-hmm. But the problem is that it never gets dealt with. It's always there. No. And then there's unfortunately, not only is it doing damage, but then there's triggers. Sometimes it will bring something out. Something will trigger those feelings too. So it's such a hard thing in the fire service, and that's one of the things that I personally felt led in my previous fire career. But also, like with this podcast, we just want to get guys to open up to say one of our mottos here is to say it's okay not to be okay, and we're trying to say it's all right to have issues. We all have them. And we need to be able to be okay with opening up and say, I got a problem. I got something that's really messing with me, and I got to talk about this because it's affecting my life. Because it's not only affecting me, but it's affecting my wife or if it's a husband, if it's a female, and my family and the people around me. I mean, it just radiates out. And then unfortunately, and I've seen this unfortunately, is that you get so bad that now you start going to narcotics, or you start going to alcohol, and then it just gets to a point where unfortunately I've known a few people that are no longer with us because they just couldn't handle it anymore. And I think that's so important to get these guys to open up and find a way to find that common ground to say, it's okay. Let's walk through this together. And you're not soft. Yep. You're not any less of a man. We got to get away from that old school. And you and I talked about it too, Harold. We got to get away from that old school tough guy firefighter culture or police culture that I'm a man and, just suck it up, buttercup, and be, you're okay. And just, you go walk it off or whatever. You'll be fine. And we got to get away from that because it's doing damage.
So Harold, go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, what is your process in this as you start to identify maybe somebody that is, you can see a change, you can see a struggle. What is your process and kind of how would you walk through that? I'm just thinking of listeners who they might not be a chaplain, but they see a brother or sister. They're like, man, they need help, and I don't really know how to help them, but I know I want to help them.
Yep. That's actually late. If we're responding to what is already a trauma-induced response, and let me insert this here. I'm a huge opponent of the phrase PTSD. I hate it because it ends with the word disorder. So it makes it sound like when you're struggling with something, there's something wrong with you. No, there's not. You have a normal response to an abnormal situation.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that is actually becoming less used. PTSD is becoming less used, and it's being it's being categorized as either processed trauma or unprocessed trauma, because essentially that's what it is.
Right.
It's a,
Yep.
you know, it's a neutral thing. It's not like you said, a disorder where it's putting this.
Oh, it's not a
connotation.
It's not a disease. When you think of a PTSD or a disorder, you think of it as a disease. It's not. It's something from the outside that was placed, and now I have to learn to deal with that.
Right.
I was told I had PTSI because it was post-traumatic stress injury. It was like a broken leg. It hurts.
I like that.
It hurts really bad right now, and it's going to struggle.
But we can get through this.
But it's an injury. You're going to heal. We're going to get you better. And I like that a whole lot better.
Yeah, I like that.
And let me really quick, I just wanted to say this too, Harold, before you go on, is it, you brought up a good point about, when you see something there, you know, if you're listening right now, you don't have to be a chaplain to be the one that gets involved. You can be a friend.
A lot of times they're better. It's better than chaplains.
Yeah. But I mean, I know we've brought chaplains on. We talk about this with the chaplain, but understand that the chaplain brings the spiritual side of things that maybe a normal person may or may not be able to bring. But if you're
calling me not normal?
No,
You are on our podcast.
that's true. That's true. You took the test. You passed. So,
You're on a podcast indoors with some dude wearing a Bears beanie over there.
look at me. Look at me. Look at me for crying out loud. I look like an idiot. But no, you know, the thing is, anybody can help. And if they see a brother or sister that's in need, you don't have to just immediately go, "Oh, chaplain, come on over here and help out." You can be that person as well. So as you respond, this goes to everybody, but how would you respond? Like Josh asked.
And let me back up because, and I think, I don't say I think, I agree with you, Harold. At that point, it's too late. And I guess I was just thinking about that because often we let it get too late because that person doesn't want to open up. But maybe even back that up. And so people would say, okay, I don't want to let it get too late with my brothers and sisters, you know, on my shift or whatever. So start there and kind of walk through how you would deal with it.
I'm actually going to step, I'm going to step one step behind that.
Yeah, that's fine.
And say, if the department and especially the officers have a culture of, we're going to promote self-care.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to keep an eye on, and we're going to advocate for fitness and having fun in your life and having family and friends around you, and perhaps also having a faith dynamic. But that self-care initially aids our resilience.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree.
So that's preemptive.
We talk about culture and leadership a lot in this podcast, and that is one of the most vital things in any department, whether it's a police department or a fire department or an ambulance agency, is having that culture of this, I would say, empathetic, and it's a servant leader mindset from the top, and it has to be there because that's going to make every bit of what you do as an agency successful, but especially when it comes to self-care, when it comes to dealing with difficult issues that come up and arise as firefighters and police officers and paramedics.
I've just had some conversations just lately, the end of the year, and now even now with the chiefs, or one of the chief at the department, the full-time department that I'm a chaplain at, and he and the assistant chief, both, or the deputy chief, they are now having some serious conversation about what does that look like. They want to be that leader, and then where do I fit in that? And so, you know, as we work through 2025 that's one of their goals, to say, hey, we put a lot into making sure our people have the best equipment. We put a lot into making sure they're the best trained. Why don't we put a lot into making sure we keep them healthy? And, you know, I mean, they have wellness. They have a lot, like physical wellness. They have, so let's put that kind of care into their mental well-being so that we're not ruining families and lives and that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So go ahead, Harold.
So
keep cutting you off.
No, it's all good stuff. Let me give an example from something that happened recently. We had an infant fatality a couple weeks ago with one of our guys who's still probationary, that has a child just a little bit older than that one, and I could see him struggle on scene. It just was okay, this one's getting to him more than Not more than it should, but it's getting to him. So
right, more than another one might. Right, yeah,
right. So we did our normal after action meeting where we got together, and one of the paramedics that was there just said, we're not going to talk about the mechanics of what we did because there's nothing we could have done differently to save this particular child. We did everything we possibly could, but we're going to talk about how we've responded to this, and we want to make sure that all of you know what to do in case this really starts to bother you. So then he handed it over to me, and I just simply said, listen, if tonight or tomorrow this still just kind of hangs in your head, that's probably appropriate because this was a tough call for all of us. But at the same time, if 3 weeks from now you're still replaying this movie in your head, or there's just this hyper focus toward this event, what I would suggest doing is getting a 6-pack of soda, getting a pizza, and calling the guys that are in this room that were on this call. And sitting down and saying, I'm still having trouble with this call. Can we talk it out? Now, again, here's the paradox of this is that the one thing you don't want to do is talk about it. But trauma is helped by talking because it slows our mind down to be able to make sense of what we can't make sense of.
Yep. I had I was just going to say I had a difficult call a few years back now, and I realized same thing. Well, this is sticking with me longer than it normally would. And on this podcast, we talk a lot about just my understanding, my theological understanding of my relationship with God goes a long way in all of this. And so I just sat down and I wrote a little blog about I worked through the things, the difficulties theologically, and I wrote it down. And I kind of was doing that for others that I knew were struggling. And literally, as soon as I printed that thing, gone. Done. Yeah. But it was because
what you did was you took the time to process it.
Yep.
You slowed down your thinking to write it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm just agreeing with what you were saying there, Harold.
Yeah. I mean, and great job of doing that and having self-awareness to know what helps you. But some of these, and it's particularly younger guys, don't know where to turn. And so
right.
I would love if we did Fire Academy, because we do that fairly often here in Allendale, if they would give me a half an hour with Fire Academy so that we prime these younger probationary firefighters to know that their response is not abnormal.
Right. I think that's the key.
Let them know that immediately.
Get ahead of it. Yeah. And I think that's something, when you're talking about the full-time department that you're on, and even the adjacent agency, the police agency,
right.
Their chief, who is relatively new, who came from a very, very tough background as well, putting people through academy. I mean, that's a great discussion to have with them. And that's kind of how you lead from the top with that is you get in front of it
right.
in that initial training saying, you're going to see some things, but this is how we're going to work with you afterwards and getting ahead of it so that you can have a plan to slow that down and so people can process it.
Yep. And so from the faith perspective, I've had, because the next step in this is that if that small group conversation kind of dead ends a little bit and that firefighter doesn't have help from that, I say, call me and we'll talk. And I've had a small handful of guys who I've met with in my home. And we have talked, some guys 1 session, sometimes it's been 4 or 5. And it drove my chief a little crazy because I promised the guys that not only would the content of our meeting be confidential, the fact that I was even meeting with them would be confidential.
Mm-hmm.
So the chief doesn't even know who I've met with.
Right.
Wow.
But they need that.
That helped.
They need that. Yeah. Yes. And that's really, as I'm learning even more about like how peer support works and all that through, again, the full-time department, that's one of the keys is that it's as confidential as possible so that there's no stigma. There's no,
See, and as a chief, I'd be 100% behind that.
Right.
If one of my guys called you, do I want to know? Well, yeah.
Yeah, because you care about that.
I want to know that my
right.
guy, somebody on my force has got a problem.
But if you knowing prevents them from calling.
Right.
Right.
But if PJ meets with somebody and he just happens to go like, oh yeah, I met with one of the guys the other day. Are they okay?
Yep.
Yeah, I think we're good. I think we're going to be okay.
Right.
That's all I need to know.
Yep.
Yes, I absolutely am going to be concerned. Not because I want to call him out or take him off duty, but I love everybody on my force.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and if I would find a guy that would be at the point where his ability to serve would be compromised, I wouldn't tell him, but I would encourage him to tell either his officer or the chief.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, which they should
That's
know.
not going to come from me.
Yeah,
right.
which they should know, because obviously that's a more serious situation, right? So,
and let me clear it. I'm not throwing my chief under the bus, because he's been incredibly supportive of this entire endeavor. And he's the one that reached out to me to say, our department needs a chaplain.
Mm-hmm.
So I give him immense props for being ahead of the curve.
Yeah. And I don't think when I hear you say frustration, I think we all understand, like, because Rich is a chief, right? Just that. If you genuinely care about your people, you as a chief want to be able to help too. So there's that level of just, even though you know it's best, like, man, I wish I could be in their life right now, or,
Sure.
So we understand that.
And maybe I have an advantage, or I guess it could be a disadvantage. I've been there.
Right.
I was the guy that needed the help that didn't get it.
And how many times did I try? And you might not even
For 9
remember.
years.
Yeah. I remember trying and got nowhere.
Right.
Well, we still kind of live in this culture of silently and stoically suffering, right? I mean, that's kind of the expectation of men. And to an extent, there has to be that in the minor things in life, right? Nobody wants a complainer, but when it comes to serious issues like this, and I say that genuinely, I mean, anyway,
They don't want complainers.
I know.
Yeah, the Bears.
How'd the Packers do in that game? Sorry. Anyway, but no, I think by breaking down those barriers of anybody knowing about you meeting with somebody, if that's going to prevent anybody from talking about it and processing through that trauma and getting through that, then I think that's one of the easiest barriers to break down is just confidentiality. Started in Fire Academy or EMS Academy, or whatever the cycle is, and say, at some point, if you see something that is going to keep bothering you 3 weeks down the road, a month down the road, you can approach the chaplain, you can approach this person or that person confidentially, and nobody will know about it. It's 100% confidential, just like a doctor-patient confidentiality.
Right. And, throwing it into the actual fire academy, this is just a side thing, but throwing in the fire academy is great as well, because that also weeds people out to say, because a lot of times there's people that get involved in the fire service that have no idea what it's fully about. They watch Backdraft and all of a sudden it's this glorious thing of running and burning buildings all day long.
Wait, it's not like Backdraft?
Yeah. I actually, funny story, when I was in Arizona, when I was out west,
Here we
when
go.
I was out west,
Squirrel.
I'm sorry, Rich.
Yeah. No, but my younger half brother was going to, when I got out of the military, was going to get in the fire service. And I said, hold on a minute. Before you do, we're going to get you a couple ride-alongs, because let's make sure. And I got him some ride-alongs at a house that was definitely would see some stuff. And after a few of those, he goes, I don't know if I think I'm going to go look at something else in life. I'm like, good, because you need to know what you're getting yourself into, because you need to be prepared. So being in an academy to say, hey, it's not just running and burning buildings, and it's not just going to, pick grandma up out of bed. You're going to go see some calls that are tough calls, and you need to know you're going to see this. And this is, are you okay with it too?
This is a topic for another podcast episode, but weighing that expectation of saying, there is a need, which of anybody, the need for the help on your department and the struggle to get enough people to join, but then also having them weigh that expectation of, well, when you do join, it's work and you're going to see things and like you said, do some ride-alongs and temper those expectations so you know what you're actually getting into. And so it's kind of, balancing that out. Yeah. You don't want to market it like it's some, glorious job.
Well, and this is a great conversation for me and as Harold's talking about this, because that's another thing that in my, with, the gig with the full-time department that we've been talking through is, okay, what larger role can I play in the academy to start to even just build that relationship, because I think that really is a key in this is, those guys that came over to Harold's house, they're not going to come if they don't trust him, you know?
Right.
And so that's a key too, is just building that trust and being around, being available.
Yeah. That's and knowing though too, and it's tough for Harold because he's bringing obviously the spiritual element, which some guys, and I would assume some guys are a little bit leery because we're like, oh, here we go. This guy's gonna start throwing the Bible at me, on top of it. But just being that, where Harold can come in and be, non-threatening, where it's like, here, I'm not going to come over here and I'm going to start bouncing the Bible off your head. Let's just have a conversation.
Well, that's part of knowing you too, right? They know that's
right.
Yeah.
It's building that relationship. So they know that seeking help doesn't mean sitting down for a Bible study. It means trusting somebody.
Right.
And that goes back, episodes ago where we talked about you just hanging out at the station and just getting to know people and getting to know the rigs and the tools and everything else. And that's also how you build that camaraderie with everybody. It's how you build that trust with everybody.
Yeah. Well,
you guys have to have situational awareness. We have to be able to read a room.
For sure.
Right.
And I know that there are guys on our department that the faith part may come in later, but I wouldn't start with it.
Yeah, that's
right.
And I think we've had another conversation we've had a lot here. There's some people that don't understand, well, you're a Christian, you got to give them the gospel. Well, I got to trust the Lord in all of that. I want to help them first and foremost. Because they might not even be in a place whatsoever where that's like, let's just worry about helping them first.
Exactly.
And then if the door's open for that side, then that's where we're going to go.
Yeah. Like Harold said, it's reading a room. And I hate to say it this way, but there's a time and a place for it.
Right.
Sure. Just like there is for everything. And there will be, I can almost promise you that God's going to open that door for you at some point. But leading with that in the heaviest part of that unprocessed trauma, then that's
if we can help them in that moment, and then later on be like, hey, Jake, you want to really know what gives me the hope?
Right.
Okay. Well, now we've built even better relationship with them.
Exactly.
Sure. Well, and I only say this because in Harold's position, and just like in your position, your term is pastor.
Right.
So that's that initial thing when you're a non-believer and you say, oh, that's the pastor, then you're like, oh, great. Here we go.
Well, that's part of
Jesus freak on.
That's part of the conversation involved where I'm full time is there's some who don't know me as well yet. And the thought is like, well, is there going to be too much religion for him to be able to, and then those who know me are saying, well, no, he's not going to cram Bible down your throat kind of thing. Like, so I think, it's so important for them to know you. And I think, Harold, one of the things that bothers me about chaplains is,
here it comes.
Is they come, well, so here's what's funny. These guys know this. I'll meet somebody and they'll be like, oh, well, it might come up that I'm a pastor and that I'm a firefighter and then, I'm a chaplain. Well, you can kind of read right away. Well, really they're just a little bit of an adrenaline junkie and that's their way to get in. And so I'll kind of throw in I don't really like chaplains. And then they get this like, well, you're a pastor. Why don't you like chaplains? And then I'll be like, well, I am a chaplain, but I don't like them, but I like your style. And that's the thing. I've seen too many just kind of come in and they're pushy and they don't want to do anything. Right. They don't want to take any effort to build a relationship. They just kind of feel like, well, I'm the chaplain. You should respect me and talk to me. So that's the struggle. So when I say that, that's not at all aimed at you, Harold, because I can tell your heart and where you are, and even just the responding. Like when I took over,
know me better. You'll like me even less.
Well, that's what I always say.
Yeah, but look at us. We were friends for, I'll say 9 years.
I think I figured up 9 years.
We were friends for 9 years before I looked at you like you were the chaplain.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We had a bond as friends together. And then you were just that dude that just wouldn't leave me alone. And,
Right.
you kept doing all these good things for me, and now look at where I'm at.
Yeah, now you're doing a podcast.
What a jerk.
Them stinking chaplains.
The way that you say it with that.
But yeah, so sometimes
I'm smelling lawsuit.
you can get a hold of HR. That's Steve.
Oh, it's funny.
Bears.
Well, Harold, we gotta land this plane here. As we're going a little bit late here, but I can't begin to thank you enough for taking the
great
time.
Conversation.
Great conversation. We'd love to have you back sometime.
Yes.
If please,
Sure.
I hope we'd love to
feel
have
like
you.
we haven't even scratched the surface of this
Well,
conversation.
I tell you, Harold's got a lot to
Steve
offer.
quits mentioning the Bears.
I know. I derailed us today. I started off wrong with the bear stuff.
What about next time we have Harold on? We just have Steve not here.
Yes.
And we can get Harold to sit there and use that money.
Yeah. We'll just have Harold
Well, we'll
come
actually
right
have
on
you
in
here, and they'll put me outside in the hallway somewhere. So
You can sit over there. We're already used to the look.
I've already got the text. Sorry, Steve, we don't have enough mics. You're going to have to stay home today.
Ouch.
no, I know it's a tough crowd here, Harold. But hey, man. So Harold, thank you so much again for taking the time to come out here. We can't thank you enough. Before we let everybody go, we want to just first off, we want to thank our. You're taking pictures over there. We want to thank our sponsor, and the Red Flannel Coffee Company. Jake here, would you like to? What is the code for this week?
It's always the same. Where
always
you
the same.
been? It's PJ 30.
Behind their backs, 30.
We gave that up.
Oh, my goodness.
Ago.
Maybe
Sorry,
maybe Harold. Maybe I'll set an interview up with Harold on my podcast.
There you go. Well, we won't know about it. It'll be behind our backs. RedFlannelCoffeeCo.com. Go check us out. We've got some new coffee on there. I did not bring any with me because I came unprepared. But go use PJ30, right?
Yeah, for 30%.
What the code is. And
You're asking us.
get 30% off. Listen, some things have been said, some things have happened. I forget where I'm at. So RedFlannelCoffeeCo.com. Check us out.
I'm sure a lot of chaplains and a lot of departments would not complain if you said, "Hey, I got a bag of coffee for you. Let's sit down and have a chat."
I've done that actually for a couple departments. I've brought coffee to them and just said, "Hey, give this a try." And tell me about your department. What's about? So,
Well, Harold, next time he's near Allendale Fire, you know what you got coming, buddy.
Yeah.
So,
hey, my in-laws live in Allendale, so I'll stop by. And see
there we
you.
go. Yeah. So, well, you also too, for the viewers out there, we have our awesome email, ffifpodcast@gmail.com.
Thank you, Rich.
Thank you, Jake. And if you have any show ideas, any concerns, anything you want to talk about, you want some prayer, it'll be totally confidential. We will not talk about you, but we will any way that God can use us to help you out, please reach out to us. I know we did a few shows back, and we got quite a response. So if something you're hearing here is triggering, please reach out to us, and we want to pray with you and just walk alongside you. Also, make sure get on Facebook, get on Facebook and like our page and YouTube and Spotify, and please share this podcast with somebody. As you know, we've said this time and time again. Anything that happens here, we do this out of we want to help you. We feel led to help you. We don't get paid for this. We just want to be here and hopefully, pray that God is using this to help you out. So please, share this with somebody that you think it would be helpful for. And, so thank you so much again, Harold. We can't thank you enough, buddy.
Yeah, we'll
Great
definitely have you
talking
back on for sure. I think we've got lots more to talk about.
All right, man. Yeah. Well, thank you again, Harold. Have a great evening, and we'll talk to you soon.
You as well.
And thank you so much.